We've got two Tesla institutional analysts who are still very bullish on Tesla stock despite the current negative sentiment. They each have different reasons why. First, we have Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities, who continues his buy rating at a very bullish $315 despite Tesla's recent problems in China, arson in Berlin, and slowing EV demand. And second is George Gianarikas of Canaccord Genuity, who shared his forecast for Tesla stock after his recent Giga Texas tour. He talked about what he thinks are the three drivers that will re-energize the stock after a negative near-term outlook. He reiterated his buy rating for a $234 price target. Today we have Brian White joining us. He has his own YouTube channel called FutureAza. Welcome, Brian.
Herbert, this is an exciting topic. And like you said, sentiment is off a little bit. And so it's great that IR, Investor Relations, is actually reaching out to these people who have the ability to move markets a little bit to give them the peace of mind that they need.
Yeah, let's listen to both of these analysts and say what they are saying. Then we'll go through a little bit of the what's happening with the Gigafactories also. So let's start off with Dan Ives. He is in Asia right now, traveling a tour there, and he continues his bullish call on Tesla despite the recent problems they're having in China, possible arson in Berlin, which is now confirmed, and slowing EV demand. His buy rating is still 315. Let's listen a bit to what he said on CNBC.
Story's dead. I just believe we are going through a very brutal transition period to get onto the other side. And for Tesla, it's, do you squeeze competition, continue to cut prices, or do you basically hold serve?
But it comes at a time when Tesla was just about getting it right on the profitability front, right? So how long does this transition period last, and how much does it test patience for Tesla and Tesla's shareholders who've been wanting it to be more in the black on the bottom line?
Well, the biggest issue is that those conference calls, they've almost been Saturday Night Live comedy shows. I mean, because without a CFO, Zach, since he left in August, every time you want to get guidance, you want communication, you don't get it. So the problem now is that I think about 80% of the sell-off has been communication, 20% is the actual fundamentals. And investors in this market, you'll see risk off on Tesla, but I don't believe we sit here 6, 12 months from now, it's the same narrative. As we ultimately see a sub $30,000 vehicle, FSD autonomous, and the rest, ultimately what I view as the story, comes to fruit.
12 months.
12, look, I think we are definitely right now going through a very, very difficult period as a Tesla holder. I mean, it's so much easier to just own the godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, Microsoft, you know, what I view Amazon, a handful of others. But for Tesla, I think we get onto the other side of this. That said, it's definitely, you know, sort of put the seatbelt on time as we see in terms of the stock.
You mentioned, and I'm not trying to champion Tesla here, but you mentioned, you know, it's almost like SNL when it comes to Elon Musk. And I know he's no Sydney Sweeney, but in terms of being able to give guidance, considering what's happening right now, isn't that really tricky for them to do? Because we're seeing day in, day out price cuts and, you know, expectations getting absolutely slashed. So how can they realistically be able to deliver anything of the next 6 months, let alone the next 12 months?
But give some goalposts. Give a worst case.
But then he gets accused of doing it again and over-promising and under-delivering.
But the problem is that by no goalposts, no communication, bad news in terms of come out of the China numbers, investors basically put on the blindfold, play darts. That's where the model is going to be, and that's not good for the stock. And it comes down to, like, investors understand Musk goes to the beat of a different drum. No one could argue with his success. But the problem is right now, this is a time investors, they need to get handhold. What does AI look like on the other side? The Delaware situation, the 25% ownership, you know, in terms of some of the noise there. That's just added to the agita that we've seen in the stock.
What do you think, Brian? Do you agree with what he's saying?
So first of all, I love that you're able to find so many of these fantastic clips that are outside of my scope. I hadn't seen that one. It was magnificent. And if you guys get a chance, please subscribe to Herbert here, because where else are you going to find it? So the first big problem, I love that he said it's like a comedy show, but he's dressed like an actual circus performer, but that's fine. There were some big mistakes in this video overall, and I I find these to be consistent mistakes done by these kinds of analysts. The first is, EV demand is done. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. There's a lack of demand for cars that aren't compelling at outrageous prices. Ford cut prices dramatically and saw the headline I saw this morning was an 80% surge in EV sales as a result. That's worth mentioning. And then you've got, and then of course they put up on the screen how the stocks are performing as if that is the true measure. A one-day swing in stock prices does not tell you much about the health of all these companies. And for that matter, they put up well, here's the Magnificent Seven. 6 of them hit their targets, and Tesla missed. Tesla missed your target. You missed. You made the wrong estimates, you guys. And Dan is saying that the way they come up with the price, a lot of these analysts, and he should list himself as well, is they put on a blindfold and throw darts. I disagree. They're throwing darts, but they're not wearing a blindfold. They're still not super accurate. So I think it was interesting, but in a lot of ways is looking at the wrong metrics to try and make a determination. If you're looking to gamble over the 1 week or 1 month term, these shows may help you do that. But if you're looking to invest over the 3-year, 5-year, 10-year horizon, I'm less convinced that this is the correct approach.
Yeah, I do think that he's right though, but his point about communication, Tesla without giving guidance, and I'm okay with them not giving guidance, but it's just more this concept of what he says goalposts, right? Which is this idea of, where are they? Where they don't even need to give numbers; they just need to give just information
Objectives.
about where are they with AI today. Last year they gave that beautiful chart that showed that by January this year they were going to be the top 5 supercomputer in the world, and then 20 terabytes by the end of the year or something like that. That's the kind of stuff they need to give an update on. So we are here. We're on path. They need to give a target of what they see with the sales, what their strategy is. And they just don't communicate very well. So that part I get. Like without that communication, not only the retail, but also the institutional, they're all very, very jittery right now, right? Skittish, trying to go, well, what is happening? Because if they're not saying anything, maybe it's bad. You know what I mean? So they need to say something.
Well, of course you want them to present milestones. That's your whole thing.
That's my thing. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's listen to the rest of the show and listen to what else he's saying.
How much is this a Tesla story versus how much of this is the EV transition theme losing steam?
Look, EV, it's been dark days. I mean, we see it globally, right? Even you look at GM, Ford, they're taking a step back, hybrid. You're starting to see, okay, so now do we go to 60% penetration? It's probably closer to 30%. But still, that's a massive growth opportunity over the coming years. But from an EV perspective, it has been a very difficult time for the players and for investors, also in a market that's bifurcated. So it's like, do you want to be owning the minivan right lane with the paint job going 40 miles an hour, or the Bugatti in the left lane that you'll pay up for, which is essentially AI? So that's the problem right now in this market.
Can I just really quickly ask you, probably no other company in the S&P or even in the Mag 7 will be more impacted by the prospect of a Trump presidency. Do you foresee that if Trump was to win, that it's boom time for Tesla, because all of the malignment they've been receiving from the Biden administration would practically disappear in a day?
Yeah, I mean, the elections, like obviously if Trump won, there'd be benefit. But then I'd argue on the other side, in terms of China tensions, that would be more negative. And that would actually hurt Tesla, just given that's such an important end market for them and Apple. And I think there's definitely, across Asia, in terms of my travels, a lot of questions on the elections, EVs. And look, essentially it went from a Cinderella story to a horror show, but it's probably somewhere in between. I do believe the way to play it, it's BYD and Tesla in terms of who's going to emerge as a winner.
As long as there's a happy ending, if there is one.
Well, I mean, we've been here before in terms of going through, in terms of going through these types of situations, you ultimately have to, betting against been the wrong move.
I like her so much, as long as there's a happy ending. So I just want to clarify when he said, right, he goes, there's 50% it's a horror story, EV story, because initially they were targeting 50% by 2030 of all cars sold will now be electric vehicles. Now it's about 30%. That's because none of the other car makers have been able to prove that they can create a profitable electric vehicle other than China and Tesla. And so he goes, it might be 30%, but that doesn't change Tesla's outlook for 2030 at all. In fact, if anything, it's going to give them all this space to go and sell more. That's not a negative at all to Tesla stock in my mind. In fact, if anything, it's a positive.
Yeah. So the first thing he said is, well, it's dark days, but then he listed companies that aren't serious about EVs. Yeah, Ford, GM, Stellantis, they're struggling, and well, they should be. They're not. They have yet to show how serious they're capable of being, or maybe they have, and that's the problem. It ignores the China story. Like he said later, BYD is, one to watch. Of course they are. And BYD is not the only one. There are other big EV players in China, and there are hundreds of smaller players. Those are the ones at risk. We'll see some consolidation there. We'll see a lot of bankruptcies there. But in the meantime, BYD, Xiaopeng, Li Auto, even NIO are putting up respectable production numbers, and some of them are even profitable, but not all, because it is that hard. So how bad is it going to get? He went into politics. I don't like to cover politics, but what he did say that is correct is no matter who's elected, Tesla's going to be fine. Whether it's because one candidate is friendlier to the company or the other candidate's policies are friendlier to EVs generally, either way, Tesla's poised to make hay from it. And yes, if the market is only 30%, 8 years out, 6 years out, 10 years out, it's going to be, Tesla's still going to continue its growth. They've got new models coming that will be cheaper. I've seen some very negative comments saying, why is Tesla looking at Mexico or India or Thailand or any of these places when they can't, even sell the cars they make? Now, let's pretend for a minute that second half is true and that they can't sell more cars than they can today. It ignores the reality of the coming compact, which will expand the market it'll expand Tesla's market into segments that they previously haven't been. And unlike a BYD, which you can already get in China for $25,000, this will be an exciting, compelling car because that's the only kind of car Tesla makes.
Okay, let's move on to another institutional analyst. Here we've got George Gianarikas of Canaccord Genuity. He took a tour of Giga Texas this week. It seems to be there's a number of Tesla analysts that are being given tours by the institution or the investor relations of Tesla. So his notes, this is what he said: we were able to tour the bustling factory floor and test drive the Cybertruck and refresh Model 3. Incredible experiences for us and our guests. Thank you to the Tesla team for hosting us and putting on a great show. This is what he said: outside of marginal improvement or deterioration in the near-term outlook, what will truly re-energize Tesla stock and clear the air? 3 drivers. So first would be the next-gen vehicle ramp, margin improvement led by increased full self-driving adoption, and continued rapid growth in energy storage. Like this guy so much, he knows that these are actually, here's an analyst talking about the FSD. We see clarity on confidence and trajectory of these 3 growth drivers. Clarity and confidence in the trajectory of these 3 growth drivers as a catalyst to move Tesla from its current zigzag stock performance to recapturing its outperformance legs of old. Patience required. So he still keeps a buy rating, $234 price target in Tesla. What I don't get is that at the price target, $234 is 12 months from now, and yet he's talking about the next gen vehicle ramp. I do agree that full self-driving adoption could show up within that, likely will show up, and yet and rapid growth in energy will show up in the next 12 months. But the next gen vehicle ramp seems to be a little, I don't know where he's thinking that might show up as a catalyst by that point. Maybe the excitement that it's coming. And that's one thing that we should probably talk about, is that many times these analysts, they're forward looking, so that like they already will start talking about, they'll stop thinking about 2024 numbers. They're already talking about 2025 numbers as they start projecting out like in the next few months or so.
So yeah, you've got some interesting things going on there. There's They did recognize this. George recognized that Megapack is real. And some analysts are still barely counting it or even not counting it, which is insane. It's already churning billions in revenue. I think that deserves some attention. We can see that Lathrop still has a little bit of room to grow before it maxes out. And Megafactory Shanghai should be online by the end of the year. If you're looking even 12 months out, we could see real numbers already moving on that front by then. And then you've got the FSD beta money. And you could say, well, yeah, but adoption rates are very low. Yeah, on version 11 did not impress me the way I had hoped it would. Version 12, everything I'm seeing right now, Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire is doing a cross-country trip in V12 and documenting all of it, showing a lot of very interesting and impressive things like it can now park. It can park itself. That was a big missing element. But V12 doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the end goal, the absolute final one for adoption to spike. If it just performs as we're seeing it perform, forget people buying it, subscriptions will come online. And subscriptions are very good for the company because they show up as fully counted revenue once each month ends. So it's unlike when you purchase it, some of that revenue is deferred for years, forever so far. Subscription revenue is counted immediately. And I can tell you, when V12 is available for my car, I will be getting it because at least to test and then maybe to keep, because it looks like something that's so much better than what we had before. So yeah, they're counting the right things. As for the $234 price target, that's one of them dartboard numbers we just talked about, where he's saying, well, it's below that now, and I think it'll be higher. Let's not get crazy, $234. And I would agree with you on the prospect of the compact. If it's even unveiled and the promise looks correct and not crazy, we could absolutely see some movement in the market because of it.
Yeah, he said that he's increased his confidence after the factory tour, and I think at this point, all signs are still pointing very positive for the Gen 2 car. That it's not only on track, but maybe even ahead of what people are thinking. Like they've been working on the production line for over a year. You can hear more and more confidence coming out of the executives. They're referring to it in just the most recent video by Jay Leno. He asked the question, Jay asked the question, is this going to be is this your cheapest car? And he goes, yeah, Laura says, yeah, for now. It's coming very soon as well. Okay, so a couple of quick stories here. One is there's another rumor that there's going to be a Giga Thailand. So in this case, it's actually a potential production facility in Thailand, because they had conducted a site survey last year. This is an official from the Prime Minister's office said that on Monday.
Yes.
So,
well,
yeah.
these rumors are constant. This morning,
Yeah.
I published a video about this and all of the previous rumors that we've seen, and not even all, because every country's in talks. Indonesia, Canada at one point was a done deal. It's going to happen. And Spain, and whenever I always discount single source rumors, and doubly so when it's from a politician. Government officials love to spread hype this way. It makes them look good. We saw that. Even I had a gentleman tag me in a post on X today saying, hey, what happened in Mexico? I thought they were going to be breaking ground on March 3rd. And they didn't. And I said, that was a single source rumor from a politician. We get those all the time. And also March 3rd, that's a Sunday. I don't see them doing a groundbreaking on a Sunday. That would be unusual unless it was just a ceremony, and we would have heard about a ceremony coming. So Thailand, it's not off the table, but until we see something official, it's not on the table. It's just a rumor.
I fell for that Giga Mexico one, March 3rd. It's a date, and it was a date that when he said it was like a week later. It would have been weird, and I fell for that one, unfortunately. Okay, so we've got another story here that this one's real, right? Tesla Giga Berlin had arson, was terrorism, and then the bomb detectors had to arrive, and they evacuated it. Arson attack on the transformer station near the factory. Blackout, production interrupted. Tent of eco activists discovered. explosive ordnance buried here. That's what it said. So now they had to go and check to see if there was truly a bomb that was there. They are known as Volcano Group, left-wing extremist, attacking the power supply. We have sabotaged Tesla today. I mean, again, weird. If you're an eco-extremist, you're attacking Tesla. Yeah, what
so
have you heard
dumb.
about this? Mm-hmm.
Not much beyond that. It's just so dumb. These are the same kinds of people who throw soup at the Mona Lisa to get angry at fossil fuel companies. There's no connection. It doesn't make sense. In this case, it's dumber still. It's counterproductive. You're going after a company that uses less water than it takes to make a pair of jeans to build an entire car, and you're angry at them. You're not going after the coal company nearby that not only uses more water, vastly more water, but goes over their allotment every year. You're targeting the wrong people, and I would be very curious to know who funds your operation, because if it's grassroots, my friend, check your roots. That's terrible.
I love it. Thank you so much, Brian. So first, shout out to our friend Jan in Germany, Tesla Fix. He was the one that helped break this story. He's sometimes on my channel and sometimes on your channel also, Brian. Thank you so much. Follow Brian on his channel, FutureAza. It used to be called My Tesla Weekend. Same great content, new title. Great rebrand. Thank you so much, Brian. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.